This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. You can find all my work at mjmunoz.com. Join me for a discussion of Ultraman Zett episode 16 featuring research, rampaging, and revenge. This episode is off kilter, sweet, and a touch tragic. What did you think of it? My name for this episode, or for this review, is Ultra Mercy, and I will get to why that is the case by the end of the episode. So stick around for that right now. So I want to talk about Kid Yuka first. It's interesting to me that Yuka encountered this kaiju that I don't remember the name of, but it had a cool name. I'm sorry. Metsubos is what it gets turned into. Horobos, I believe, is the name. Yeah, Horobos. So she encounters Horobos as I think she's a 4-year-old kid, and seeing that kaiju up close, seeing it so much larger than her, so much larger than life, had a lasting impact on her and caused her to be interested in, I would assume, studying and researching, dissecting kaiju today. And maybe even kaijin, or the unlucky alien who happens to cross her path, right? Thinking about you, Mr. Spiky. And I find that to be really interesting. I like that. I like her connection specifically to Horobos and her, not her hometown, but her grandma's hometown. We can assume that Granny's long dead by now. Rest in peace, Oba-chan. There was no one like you. And I don't know, it's interesting how we have that setup. So there's that personal tie to her, and then you see throughout the episode that she's desperate to help Horobos calm down. But at first she just seems excited to find out where it is and find any clue that she can, urine samples or whatnot, to find out more about this kaiju that should be reawakening after 333 years. But we don't really see her full, relationship with it, or understanding of, not understanding, but like reaction to the kaiju until really the end of the episode, as it gets, the climax gets more and more desperate and exciting, and it ends up being kind of sad because she has to see this kaiju basically put down after she fails to soothe it because of the intervention of Kaburagi. It's interesting though that she saw this thing. She's got to be only 20-something, so let's say 18 to 20 years ago. Let's be broad. Let's say she's 30, maybe. So 18 to 26 years ago, she saw this thing, and it's only supposed to wake up every 333 years. Then I would ask, what was it doing awake at that time and place, when she was a little kid? Shouldn't it have been completely dormant or sleeping? I would think so. It appeared that it was there, and then it dug itself under the ground to hide or whatever. And, that I get, but I don't know, did she, had this little kid, this little pipsqueak, interrupt its hibernation or whatever? That doesn't really make sense. So I wonder what that's supposed to be. I mean, and had she come across it sleeping, that would make more sense. And it didn't move. Maybe its eyes are always glowing or something. That would be different, and I'd kind of take that a little differently, and it wouldn't give me such pause from such an otherwise cool episode. I mean, it was an awesome shot, don't get me wrong. Mouth agape, eyes glowing red, and then it dives down into the earth. Super cool. Maybe just don't have it dive down and have her leave, and that's the kaiju that you encountered. I don't know, but then why wouldn't other people know about it, and why would it be a mystery? I guess it had to have moved. But then why have this 333 year wake up period or interval for its hibernation or whatnot? That doesn't really make sense. Make it shorter? I don't know. Anyway, it was interesting to me that when they found the site where she had encountered Horobos, you could see there was a tree line that matched, but there was all this city development around it, and it made me think, is it possible that they started developing this area 20 some years ago, and that's what woke up Horobos or interrupted his slumber and sent him somewhere else? And now the 333-year period is over, and it's time for him to wake up fully. But the land had been, he had been disturbed, and maybe was going to be more aggressive anyway because of how the land had been overdeveloped. And that kind of ties into Kaburagi. He's not letting the kaiju exist in their natural form. He's using these monster metals. He's synthesizing them. He's basically like mucking around and using advanced science and technology to do all sorts of things. Like the Ultras made the Ultra metals by voluntarily, giving of their essence somehow to make the metals. How were the monster metals formed? I'm not sure. It feels like maybe Celebro stole that technology, the concept. I mean, he has a Zett riser, right? He stole that technology and the concept, and then maybe he's gone around and personally attacked or invaded the bodies of monsters to get bits and pieces of them to synthesize the metals. It's not clear. We've seen him take a chunk of a kaiju, though, and turn it into metals, so that's very possible. That's very possibly what he's doing. Then again, the scale of a kaiju, is that like a skin scraping? Just a sample of a few cells, and that it's not that big of a deal? Or what? It's hard to say, because you have to factor in that they're being combined with the Belial factors, or rather the devil splinters, and that's causing a lot of this too. So anyway, my point is though that Kaburagi is so furious about his Belial metal being missing, and I don't think he can synthesize another one because Riku's not on the planet, right? That he goes over to Horibos when Horibos is calmed and when things are okay, and he throws more metals into it to turn it into, what do they call it, Metsubos, I think. And it's this, very destructive, very angry monster that absolutely goes on a rampage. And it's, I don't know, it feels like there's a tie, like a thematic tie to man meddling with, the land and, spoiling it with its development into, whatever it was, man-made structures instead of natural structures, and Kaburagi messing with the, the natural kaiju that was calmed by seashell music, and it seemed like that kaiju, Horibos, and humans had some sort of equilibrium with each other, and now that equilibrium is being disturbed, and it's partly through the ambition of Ascension. It's not man, it's Celebro, it's Ascension, right? Ascension is messing with nature in a way that's destructive and self-serving, and he doesn't care about the cost to anybody else. And then we get to see the rampage that Metsubos goes on, and yeah, maybe it's part of his. I mean, he was calming down by the music, and it seemed like there was some sort of natural pattern, a natural flow that had been established between the kaiju and humanity, and when that's interrupted, because, well, like I said, the intervention of having these other, kaiju parts put into him, he goes crazy and goes on this rampage, and it's twisting his kaiju nature, because I think he would otherwise be sort of peaceful. It's unclear. It's odd. It's strange. Oh, man, should kaiju feed off the earth somehow? Oh, that'd be interesting. If kaiju fed off of nature in a weird way. Sorry, I'm thinking as a writer now. How would I make kaiju work? Because I kind of want to do kaiju a little bit. Smaller kaiju, 50 foot tall. 100 foot tall at the most, I think. I gotta think about that later. Anyway, but there's like this twisting and warping of nature that messes things up. And I think there's a lot of legitimacy that I believe in keeping things as natural as possible. But then again, I'm just a hick from the south. Oh wait, no, I'm we have Super Noni too, so I mean, lots of different peoples have their natural cures and remedies and things like that they'd rather use than stuff from Big Daddy Pharma. But we're not going to talk about that right now, are we? I do want to talk about Delta Rise Claw, because I think Delta Rise Claw, I neglected to talk about it before because it kind of didn't feel like it mattered. I think last episode was the one where it debuted with Griza and Riku. And Riku! Sorry. I bet you can guess how old I am, if you didn't know already. And the Delta Rise Claw is an interesting form. It's kind of cool. I like the fact that the metals are gold. I like that this is like its final form, Zett's final form, and it's special. And I think I noticed that when Jeed went away, he didn't have his crazy awesome Guyver armor anymore. That's what I call it. It's not really Guyver armor, but there's aspects of that with like the blue shield type pattern armor on your boy Delta Rise Claw's legs. It looks like that's where he has it, and it's interesting. And like I think the head is kind of like what Zero's head shape looks like. So I'm beginning to understand a little bit more how the Ultra Metals like change the shape and the look of him for the forms, based on which Ultraman is first, and I don't know if it's like the primary Ultraman. Oh, it's like the O's medals almost, like where the first Ultraman mentioned is like where the head shape sort of comes from. It's like their head shape blended with Z's head shape, and then maybe color scheme is next, and then I don't know what the third thing would be. I haven't looked, I haven't examined the pattern that closely, and I don't know Ultraman as well as I could, so I'm struggling a little bit to nail it down, where everything is coming from, but that could be the case. But anyway, Delta Rise Claw is cool. The name's a little long. I think it should be Delta something else. I think that would be a little bit better, just to keep with the pattern of them all being one word. And I mean, Delta Claw would be fine, or just Delta Rise. I think Delta Rise, that sounds cool. Anyway, I think the claw is from the belly all metal though, but just make him Delta Claw. That's fine. That'd be cool. And I think he should have a big claw on one of his hands. But then he's got the spoilers, belly rock. I think that's what they're going to call it in here, because that's what it was in the Japanese with the subtitles. That's the belly all needle thing. And I don't know. It's a cool form. It's decent looking. The Night Shot didn't sell it that well, which was interesting. You would think the opposite. Oh, which, by the way, it's crazy to me that they're debuting this new form, and yet they're still showing off the other forms and making them cool. Although I guess maybe that makes sense that you would kind of spread that out, because at some point he uses Gamma Future, and he's got like a plasma cape, which is awesome, and he uses it to like sweep aside some stuff. It's like he uses it to block things, I think, and then it's like flowing majestically behind him as he's running around fighting this kaiju, and that was super cool. Oh, and then I almost forgot to mention, so Delta Rise Claw, I like it. I think it's a cool form. I love the idea of swallowing darkness and it, growing beyond, like being able to withstand that darkness is what unlocks this next level of power, which is something I said last episode, but I said that about the weapon, not so much the form. So I think that's interesting. And I love the thematic nature of that. I think it's really cool, really nifty. So there's that. Oh, and then I forgot, your girl Yoko ended up showing up and sort of saving the day, because she gave Haruki or Zett the chance to recover and end up getting the win on Horibos or Metsubos, and that was pretty cool. Showing up in Queen Joe, perfect clutch, saving of the big guy. It was super fun, super cool. And I love that the cannons, the Palladium cannon missiles, whatever they call it, she's able to shoot them up and have them land right on the target when she's, connected to it, locked in with it. That's pretty good. That's a good aim to not hit herself. So that was cool. And then that twist at the end with that alien Barossa coming in got me kind of scared, because I'm worried about what Zett's going to do. He's at his limit. That color timer's been blinking, and I don't know if it's like every time he switches to a new form it extends his time or what, but he is not doing well, and I can imagine that'll be a very difficult situation for him to get out of. Hopefully it's not super easy, barely an inconvenience, because that would kind of stink to ruin the tension from the next episode. But yeah, we'll see. I don't want to spoil it or talk about that. So I think I covered everything. Yuka, it's weird how she's like, oh, I want to dissect you and whatever, even though she like has this admiration for the kaiju and like wants to sort of protect them or like live in balance with them, but at the same time she also wants to cut them up. I don't know if it's just because like it's almost like Pokemon. In the world of Pokemon, they work together with humans, and people can kind of like harvest stuff from them a little bit, like you get an electric Pokemon at a power plant or whatever, and like use them for I can't remember what she's called. The big one with the egg in her belly or whatever, like that works with Nurse Joy. Is that what it is? Anyway, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've really paid close attention to Pokemon. But like you have this coexistence type thing. Like Yuka used the Neoranga horn to help power King Joe or Wyndham, I think, make it charge faster and stuff like that. Like that's cool. Like using kaiju bits and stuff like that you can obtain or harvest in like a peaceful way for the betterment of mankind and for human flourishing, and it's like mutually beneficial. You're not killing the kaiju just for its horn, just so you can make this thing. Like that makes sense to me. But that's like, I would say the same thing about rhinos. If you really want rhino horns, why don't you raise rhinos like we raise cows or chickens and harvest the horns from them, and I don't know, give them a synth horn or something like that in order to make it better. Not that I'm into synthesizing stuff, but just I believe for a while people were doing that. They were growing and tending and herding rhinos for their horns specifically, and they weren't murdering them and leaving them dead, rotting corpses just with a horn cut off. They were, you cut off the thing because it's made of the same type of materials, hair and nails and whatnot. So, and just an example I'm throwing out there off the top of my head. So, anyway, I think there's a better way to do things, and Yuka has this weird tension where she seems like this mad scientist, but sometimes she seems like a good mad scientist, and sometimes she seems like a bad mad scientist. And in this one, she seemed good. She seemed like really sympathetic, like she was really vibing with this kaiju and wanted to save it and make sure it was, protected. And like I said, in balance with nature and having this like harmony, but it didn't work out that way, tragically. And so basically she asked Zett to do a mercy killing of the kaiju, and he went ahead and did it because that was the only way he could see to really free it from the corruption of the metal being combined with it. I wonder if that's on enough. I wonder if they should be able to go and extract that. But this is not Kamen Rider X-Aid. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close off because I think I went a little longer than I had intended. But I did cover all the topics I wanted to cover, and I talked about everything I wanted to talk about. So there's no more reason for me to be here. I'm going to ask that you go ahead and check out my Ultraman-inspired story for kids, which is linked in the show notes here, that you would get the subscribe to the audio version of the podcast, which you can find linked at the website in the show notes. Subscribe, you'll get that first, and then it goes up on the blog, and then it goes up on video platforms of my choice, and I'll be sharing it around everywhere I can. I'm also starting up Writer Tiers again. It's like it's a relaunch, but I'm covering the Kamen Rider manga, the original, in 6 parts. I'm going to be covering Shin Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider Agito, the dub, is out. It's been for a little bit, and I have been watching that. That's kind of fun. And I think I'm going to cover that as well as trying to get into all the other stuff. I've got the Black Blu-rays, Kamen Rider Black Blu-rays at home. I've got all of Kamen Rider, the original 1971 and 1973 to watch as well. So there's lots of good Kamen Rider stuff to cover, and I'll also be doing a little off-topic Kamen Rider Kamen Rider rant, Kamen Rider crash, something like that. And I think it will be a Rider rant, actually, about, like I said, off-topic stuff. So you can look forward to that as well. So we'll be covering Ultraman and Kamen Rider here, on my website, mjmunoz.com, and in all my channels where I'm publishing the stuff. So look forward to it. And anyway, I hope that you are well and that you be well. Until next time, folks, this is MJ signing out. I hope you enjoyed that. Go to mjmunoz.com to leave any questions, comments, or other feedback you might have. There you can find all of my analysis, art, and fiction. I cover books, tokusatsu, comic books, anime, and more. Look around. You're sure to find something else that you'll enjoy as well. This has been a Story Over Everything production.